Pop culture is more than just entertainment. It's a lens into society, relationships, and human behavior. I'm Grace, and here on The Grace Report, we dive into stories beyond the headlines. Whether it's reality TV drama, celebrity scandals, or royal family intrigue, I'm here to break it all down. What it means, why it matters, and how it reflects the world we live in. Join the conversation, share your take, and let's make sense of the culture shaping our lives one story at a time. Me sitting down last minute here. Listen, you guys, per usual, I didn't get hungry until it was time to film. And so there I was, running around looking last minute for something to eat because I was starving. I found some slices of turkey. I found some slices of cheese, and I said, that's enough. I wish I had a Ritz cracker so I could make myself an adult Lunchable, but unfortunately it was not the case. Good morning to you guys. We've got Scarlett in the house. Hello. Hi, Caroline. Allie. Good morning, Araceli. Good morning, Venetia. Good morning, Ronnie, C. Marie, Shonda, Jennifer, April, Jasmine, Katie, Malen, LTL, Katie again, Shem Jem's here, Linda's here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So sorry you're not feeling well today, Shem Jem. I am sending you all of my thoughts and prayers. Get well soon, get well soon. And hopefully today's episode of the Morning Report helps get your mind off of things. Good morning, Kristen. Theo, you changed your photo. You changed your photo. What's tea? I love it. This is so cute. Jasmine, Houston Rose, Gwen, Chocolate Drop, Tahara, one more time. Okay, so there are so many of you guys here to talk about this scandal. Okay, on va pas se mentir. We're not going to lie to ourselves. Y'all want to talk about that scandal that went viral on TikTok last night. I was watching it unfold in real time. You know, I was like, oh, wait a minute. What is going on? What is happening? I am truly, truly floored at this story, right? When I heard that Kail got knocked up by her neighbor, she was really, really into this man. She used to talk about this man all the time on her podcasts and stuff. Hot neighbor boy, hot neighbor boy, hot neighbor bae, right? And I thought, okay, said, look, this is interesting. A man in like his mid-20s who wants to get with this girl who's like got all these kids by all these random men, and he's just going through a divorce. Oh, not only does when he get with her, like he full-blown knocked her up immediately before getting to know her. That's weird. But I thought this was like a really lonely person who really wanted a family and was going through it, and that he was going to be there 100,000%. Like I thought this was endgame for Kail. I really did, you guys. So to hear that he may have cheated on her is quite shocking. It really, really is. Take a look at the video that a woman posted on TikTok last night claiming to have had an affair with Elijah. Then on the flip side, we're going to talk a little bit more about it and some of the receipts that she provided, okay?
Story time on how I unknowingly slept with somebody's fiance from Teen Mom. So I went on a cruise last year, May of 24. My homegirl ended up meeting these two guys in an elevator while I was taking a drunken nap. I ended up waking up. She was like, yo, come hang out. I met these two guys. So I ended up going to meet them in the casino. We ended up going to the club that night. We ended up going in the hot tub. We ended up hanging out with these guys the whole time. They were super cool. At the time, I had just gotten out of a very abusive relationship. Me personally, I'm looking for a rebound. I'm not even gonna lie. Meeting them, I didn't like automatically think, oh my God, this is gonna be my rebound. But I've also like just met you on a cruise. I'm never gonna see you again. I'm not gonna sit here and ask you 1,000,007 questions about your life. I didn't do that. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't question the man. I didn't do a background check. I didn't care. Clearly the lesson is here. I should have, because. So anyways, fast forward to the now. I've been on TikTok. Obviously, I'd be scrolling on TikTok, be watching my For You page, and this girl, a girl from Teen Mom, kept popping up on my shit. And she just typically didn't pop up on my For You page. I didn't think anything of it until yesterday when a video popped up of them, both of them. And I was like, you look awfully familiar, buddy. So I sent it to my homegirl, and I'm like, is this who I think it is? And she's like, oh my fucking God. So then I compared the videos of us on the cruise. In her video, it's 1,000% him. So then I look back a little more, and I'm like, yo, we're definitely together May of 24. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they had just had a set of twins a couple months prior to that. So now I'm like, what in the actual fuck? I always knew my life was crazy, but this shit is next fucking level. So yeah, again, I had no idea that he had a fiance or anything like that. The lesson here is maybe do a background check, a Google search. I don't know. I don't know. Never trust a man. So yeah, her Gucci was day.
So if a bitch ever smells like elote, it means they got tampons stuck up their vagina. Period.
Throw the whole coochie away. I need a redo.
She rejoined me, in case y'all were wondering.
She forced me out the house.
Yeah, you know, Big Philly boys, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Big Grit.
Type shit, period.
Goodness, I am genuinely, again, jaw on the floor, because I really thought that Elijah wanted a family. And I thought that he had that with Kail and her children and the children that he has with her now. So to see him behaving that way on a vacation that Kail seemingly funded for him and his brother is just wild. The fact that he did not even try to hide from the cameras or anything like that. At a certain point, you see him skipping down the hallway, raising his hands, excited to be in this video and everything like that, knowing that he is in a relationship with, that he had children with recently. This was like a couple months after the birth of their twins, and their twins spent some time in the NICU and everything like that. So just the idea that after going through such a harrowing time with his girlfriend, baby mama, whatever, he would turn around and do this to her is absolutely insane. It really, really is. Listen, Kail is a rabid cheater. She's cheated in pretty much every relationship that she's been in. So in my opinion, I do think that this might be a case of like karma. However, nonetheless, it still has to be extremely hurtful, especially when you guys consider the fact that they are currently on vacation together. So imagine that you're on vacation with your fiance, because remember, these two are engaged, and you go on the TikTok, all of a sudden you're being tagged ad nauseum, nonstop, in a bunch of videos from someone with receipts claiming to have hooked up with your man. So I did get a question from Katie, and I'm sure other people have left the question recently as well, which is, do you believe her? Honestly, when I look back at the receipts that she posted online, just the amount of time, like this was not just, oh, we saw them one time and we're trying to make it bigger than it is. Like this is them like hanging out, like, you know, going from one place to another. It just doesn't look good. You know, you're there with your brother. These two single ladies are there, and you guys are like following these ladies around like puppy dogs. You know, first you're over there at a table together, right? Then you guys are skipping down hallways, seemingly, you know, leading to bedrooms on either side and everything like that. You know, other things like that. And then there's another one. Did you see that last little clip that she posted where she's over there? Someone is like, oh, like, can you know, was it him? Was it his twin? And so she wants to show off his watch. And so she's holding onto his hand. To me, the fact that this man has a woman at home, multiple children at home, and there's another woman holding onto his hand like that, and it's the same woman that he was skipping down hallways with, all comfortable appearing in her videos and stuff like that, I am inclined to believe that he cheated. I don't think that, you know, when young men see young women that they're attracted to and they're on a cruise and they think that these women don't know who they are or whatever, because maybe at this time he wasn't as public as he is now. He still has a lockdown profile and whatnot. So, you know, she does claim that she didn't know that this was Kail's man, but that she knew Kail. I do think that maybe that could potentially be true, and maybe he was banking on that. And so in that, with that being said, I do think that he probably did hook up with this girl. I just don't see a reason for her to lie. And even if he didn't, at the very least, what he did was wildly inappropriate. It was. There was no reason for him and his brother to be running around like that. And I feel bad for Kail in the sense that she supposedly paid for this trip, right? She really wanted to push him to travel, go out there after the birth of the twins and stuff like that. So she paid for this for him and presumably for his brother as well. And so she probably already trusted this man a lot, right? Because you would think a very special kind of man would want to like, get himself involved in this kind of situation as a young man and whatnot. So like it's a serious family man and he's been pushing to get married to her for a very, very long time. So you would think that he's serious, right? And so just to be shocked with this news, I don't think that Kail has ever, ever, ever had any kind of doubts or suspicions about Elijah and his fidelity. In fact, this has been a running theme on the podcast, actually, that she trusts him with everything. She doesn't even feel the need to snoop. They've got each other's info, this, that, and the other, but she doesn't feel the need to snoop because he is not a cheater and she would never. So just the devastation of that. And again, she's on vacation with this man. Now she's saying that this happened in the past, right after she gave birth to their twins. Like, it is a lot to take in, you guys, a lot. And aren't they over there right now for like, whose birthday is it? It's her birthday or something like that, right? So she's celebrating her birthday with him. And this birthday trip is probably on her dime too, right? And you're finding this out that the last time this man was on a trip on your dime, he was doing this, and you have a family at home. That is just such ugly behavior. I'm disappointed in Elijah. What about you guys? Do you think he cheated, or do you think he was just flirting with this girl? Because I really do think that it was more than just flirting. Like I think that he and his brother were very much attracted to this woman and her friend, and that things went down. Bree's asking, is Kail really upset, or is she good at hiding it? This information, what time did it come out in your time zone? In my time zone, I started seeing this at like 8 p.m. So I don't know where are they, in Turks or something like that? I feel like maybe right now she's just taking it all in. Again, she never, from what she told us, she's never had an inkling or a suspicion, and she has never taken Elijah for a cheater or anything like that. So I think that right now she's probably in like the shock, the processing phase. And to be honest with you, she's got 3 very, 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 very young kids with Elijah. She's got a bunch of other little kids by a bunch of other random men. And Elijah, from what I'm hearing on the podcast, because y'all know I recap this podcast, anytime anything interesting comes up for my channel members and whatnot. But from what she says, Elijah does everything. He is the main primary parent for the little kids, while she really tries to continue to build her bond with the older ones. He's the one who helps get them up and get them to school and stuff like that. She was actually, in the podcast episode I was listening to yesterday of Coffee Convos, she was talking about how the dishwasher in their house has been broken for like a year. And Elijah's the one that washes the dishes for all 10 of these people every day, you guys. Like, he does all of these things, and again, she's got very, very young kids. And then she's got a bunch of other kids that she's got too. And she's a young girl too. She's probably thinking like, listen, I'm going to look the other way and I'm going to do the plausible deniability, right? I'm going to pretend that it's not as bad as it looks, because what else can I do at this point? I think that that's what she's going to do. Is she going to speak on it? Perhaps she'll get him there on the podcast and they'll do this sit down, kind of similar to the Javi thing that they just did, right? Which I will be recapping later on in this morning report, by the way. Perhaps that's what they'll do to like address the situation, the elephant in the room. Or perhaps she'll just pretend it never happened and let it all die down. But one thing I will tell you guys is I do not believe that she's going to leave Elijah. Not with 3 little kids who are like 2 years old maximum to look after right now. I just do not see it. What about you guys? What would you guys do if you were in that situation? And if the guy at home treats you well and everything, and he does everything, and you're free to run around here, there, everywhere. Kail has been traveling like crazy despite all these, damn kids in her house. And it's because of Elijah. Granted, they've got a nanny as well, but it's because of Elijah's involvement as well. And I don't think she wants to part with that quite yet. And R.S. Ellie was saying, do you guys remember the way that she was mocking Lauren when Javi was cheating on her while she was pregnant, right? She did that on TV. Good luck. He's been cheating on you since you were pregnant. Peace. Isn't it crazy? The clown always comes back to bite at the end of the day. And so she's got to be careful. I don't see her leaving. She's gonna downplay this, or she's just not gonna address it at all, but she's not gonna be leaving that man. She could leave him in the future. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe she just won't marry him. At this rate, she shouldn't, right? But I don't think she's gonna up and leave him, not with those young kids. Star says I'd stay out, but you can't let him know you found out. Once he knows, respect is lost, and you gotta dip. Exactly. And how do you confront someone on this if you're not planning to leave? It's rough. I would hate to be her right now. This is not a good situation at all. Kristen says she won't leave him. She knows she'd be single for a long time. Who's going on a date with someone with 7 kids? Exactly. And y'all know how important it is for Kail to be in a relationship. She has always been in a relationship since we saw her. And another thing that's really important to her when she gets into these relationships is to solidify them with children, right? By producing children. And now that she's gotten her tubes tied or cut out or whatever, because she thought this was final boss, and she no longer has that trap card she can activate, and I'm not saying she's trapping kids with people with children. I'm just thinking Yu-Gi-Oh, because I used to watch Yu-Gi-Oh. You've activated my trap card, like that. But now that she no longer has this like trick up her sleeve, she's probably panicking, like, what the hell do I do now? What am I going to do? Right? Very, very sad situation to be in, and unfortunately, this happens to a lot of women, whether you've known your boyfriend, husband, whatever, for a week, a month, a year, 10 years or whatever. This can happen to you too. But just the fact that she rushed per usual to go and have kids with this person she didn't even know. It was a one-night stand, and she got pregnant on the first night, which means per usual, there she goes, letting random people she doesn't know, she hasn't seen STD results from, redecorate the inside of her coochie with their sperm, and now she's got to force this family thing with someone that she doesn't even know if she's compatible with. And that's what she's been doing for 2 to 3 years. If you guys have been keeping up with my podcast recaps, then you'd know that this is something that we've been talking about for a very, very long time, that it feels like there's something very, very off with her relationship with Elijah, because it does not make sense that you're claiming that you are madly in love with this person. He is your soulmate, yet you are constantly talking about your ex, and you're talking about how your ex is the person that you would do anything for. There's nobody else in the world. She was just a couple of months ago talking about how if back in the day, if Chris asked her to buy him a BMW, if he asked her to suck his toe, if she asked her to do this, she would do it all. And you're saying this, meanwhile, you got a new man at home who does everything for you, and you're supposed to be in love with this guy? Okay. And then you're talking about how this guy has been begging you to get married, and how you keep shutting him down, and how you thought you'd be married to the other guy, Chris, like all of this stuff, it never really felt like I feel like, even though she said that this was a great guy who did all these great things for her, I think it comes down to, maybe someone is great to you and they treat you so well and you should be with them, but then your heart's not feeling it. And maybe he finally realized that her heart wasn't as in it as his is, or maybe this was a long con for him, right? Listen, you guys, from the very beginning, you got to think, what would have been his motive? Why would a young man in his mid-20s decide to go ahead and get with his neighbor, who is a woman in her 30s, which, is age appropriate, I would guess, right? It's not that far off. However, the lifestyle that she has, which is all of these kids, all of these baby daddies, all of this drama. It's not even a peaceful baby daddy sort of a situation, right? And you decide to sign up for that. And then you fall out with your parents, because your parents, your family, they are trying to tell you, do not do this. This is a big mistake. I'm sorry, y'all, but maybe there was something wrong with him. Maybe that was his thing. Maybe he wants child support out of Kail, because as of right now, she has been very successful at getting men to shirk the whole child support thing, right? But maybe this is going to be the guy who takes her for all of her money. Maybe that was his long con. Maybe now he can go, okay, I've got 3 kids by her. I'm retiring. I'm not paving these roads anymore. You see how hot it is out here, or how cold it is out here in the winter? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm living off of Kail Lowry child support checks. Kayla says that Kail and Elijah never made sense anyway. He was 23, owned his own home, military, no kids, but wants an older woman who, exactly. It was weird. It was very, very weird. But I would not be surprised if he was looking from a child support perspective. I don't know, you guys, but it's not good. It's not good. And it looks like you guys are on the same page, that there's just something that was very off. And I got to tell you guys that this man cheating on Kail, as devastating as it is the best case scenario, because it could have been something else. Because again, she did not know this man when she got knocked up by him. That was a one-night stand. So she could have been stuck with someone who is violent, maybe to her, maybe to her children, someone who does worse, like this could have been very, very bad. So at this point, if it is true that he did cheat on her, which I do think he did, she should thank her lucky stars that that's all that he did, because it could be worse. How many stories are you hearing about mom's random boyfriend doing X, Y, or Z to her children, And so this is something that I'm always talking about with these girls. It's crazy to me how little care they have for the safety of their children, where they bring these random men into their lives, or when they get knocked up by these random men that they don't even know, when they already have children that they need to be protecting. It's very, very weird. Thank God at this point, she has had her tubes tied, this or that, because obviously she cannot make smart reproductive choices on her own. But I do think if he did this, she should thank her lucky stars that this is the headline we're getting and not something worse, because it could absolutely be a whole lot worse than this, as bad as this is. Elizabeth says, did you see Javi's post yesterday about being an emotional day? His friends going through some stuff. Well, maybe he's talking about Kail, but you know what? He was filming that podcast, Barely Famous, with Kail. Well, he wasn't filming it yesterday, but maybe he was talking, it was released yesterday. So maybe he was talking about that, or maybe he's talking about the Kail situation. The girl who is accusing Elijah of cheating with her, she went live on TikTok yesterday, and she shared some more receipts of just like Elijah and his brother, like following her and her friend down the hallway and everything like that. Just a mess, you guys, just a mess. And no, I didn't see that podcast, Jaleesa, but I'm going to star your comment so that I can go ahead and check that out after the stream. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I'm sorry, but I knew there had to be something wrong with him. I do not think that a reasonable, normal 23, 24-year-old man would get himself involved in that situation, let alone have children in that sort of a situation and be begging someone like Kail to marry him. Kail, you might have gotten got. I really think he's going to go for your child support, girl. I do. It's not funny, but this is another reminder. Take your time to get to know people before you marry them. Take your time to get to know people before you have children with them, especially when you already have your own children. Like the stake, and especially when you've got a lot of money on the line, the stakes are extremely, extremely, extremely high. Extremely high. This is sad. How do you continue on your vacation? Imagine like they already booked their excursions and stuff. Now what do you do? Do you do them separately? What about the flight home? How's that gonna go? Poor Kail. But again, Kail has a long history, and she talks about this on the podcast and stuff. She recounts these stories as if she were the victim in these situations, but she's cheated on many, 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 many boyfriends and girlfriends that she's had, right? We've had Dom come out and accuse her of cheating. We've had Malik accuse her of cheating. She cheated on Jordan on the show. She tried to turn around and gaslight him about it. She cheated on, she and Javi were cheating on each other in their relationship. She was the other woman in Chris's little harem with like other women and stuff. She was involved with Javi when he was with Lauren and whatnot. Like, when you do things like this consistently, don't be surprised when it shows up on your own doorstep. Don't start crying now when you're the one impacted by it, because you've shown over and over and over again over several years and several relationships that you do not give an F. And listen, if you don't care about other people's relationships or your own relationships, why should anyone care about yours? It's sad stuff. It really, really is. It is, but I can't say that I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her kids, because there was, and this is another thing that I recapped for my channel members, but do y'all remember there was an episode of, I want to say the one that she had with Baby Mama's podcast, where she and Joe were talking about how Joe's meeting with Elijah went. So when Joe met Elijah for the first time, it was at some point last year at a barbecue, and he told Elijah, are you really serious about being with Kail? Like, are you going to stay? Because my son is still deeply, deeply wounded and traumatized from her marriage that didn't work out. Like, he really, truly saw Javi as another father figure. And when that went down the drain, it really devastated him. And he has never really fully recovered from that. In fact, Kail and Joe both said that Isaac to this day is still in therapy over that. So he was asking Elijah if Elijah was going to stay, if he was in it for the long haul. And Elijah looked him in the eye and said, yes, that he's here and he's serious. And so now to see this sort of information coming out about him after that, it's just plain evil. It really is. So here's a screenshot. You see him in the background behind that scantily clad woman. And listen, be as scantily clad as you want, go for it. You're on vacation with your friend. But for him to have a woman at home, children at home, to be running around behind these girls consistently like this is just not a good look, right? So you're running around like this after telling her inaugural baby daddy that you're not effing around. You're here for the long haul. You're not going to traumatize his children. That is dirty. That is dirty. That is dirty. And again, she could have been with this guy and known this guy for a million years, and this still could have happened this way. But I don't even know what to say. I'm really disturbed. Like, it's one thing to cheat on someone, like in a one-on-one relationship, no children involved. But when there are other children involved that you signed up for, when there are your children involved, that's just another level of just plain evil and just reckless disregard for your family and for yourself as well. Because listen, the way he was raw dogging that woman that he didn't know, his neighbor Kail, I wouldn't be surprised if he was raw dogging this woman that he just met on that cruise too. And I wouldn't be surprised if he never told Kail about it. And then he went right on back to raw dogging her too. And no disrespect for this woman, right? I don't know her. I don't know anything about her other than the stuff that she shared, but you don't know she's raw dogging a million other people. The things that you could be bringing home when you engage in this sort of reckless behavior is just, in my opinion, it's abusive. I think it's abusive to be cheating already as it is, but then to be doing it potentially unprotected. Scary stuff, you guys. Be very, very careful out here. There's people who do not care about their own health and do not care about your health either. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ali. Ali says, hit the like button, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ali is a true morning report OG. She is here every single weekday morning, you guys. We do the morning report every single weekday morning. Right now, it's at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until my time change catches up with you guys, okay? So if you're enjoying the stream, please don't hesitate to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You guys, again, very, very, very disappointed by Elijah's behavior. And I was just watching him on the podcast episode that she was doing with Javi. He's trying to be more public now. And now look, right? Yikes. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Kail later on. I need a break from her right now after this story that we've just opened up with. So she did a podcast episode of Barely Famous with Javi, her ex-husband. Spoiler alert, he is moving away to Virginia. And they were talking about it on the show and how that is going to be impacting their son, Lincoln, as well. Okay, you guys. But before we get to that, I want to pick back up and update you a little bit more on that Kanye story. Do y'all remember how Kanye West went on Twitter and went on this bizarre, just hateful, disgusting rant against Beyonce and Jay-Z's youngest children, Rumi and Sir Carter? Well, according to sources close to the couple who went to Page Six, Beyonce and Jay-Z are considering legal action against him. A source is telling him that they will absolutely not stand for his words, and they have spoken about the way he told about their children in a vulgar and offensive manner, and that they are aware of the post. And they are looking into how they can handle this situation, whether that be privately and or legally. And I did see, actually, just before going live here, that Kanye, I think he was spoken to by somebody in their camp, because he did circle back and say that he was not going to apologize until Beyonce and Jay-Z help him to protect his own children. And he says that Jay-Z and Beyonce are just like the Kardashians, except for the Kardashians, in his opinion, are ex-traffickers. I don't know why he's been saying these sorts of incredibly inflammatory, defamatory statements about people. But I do think eventually, I wouldn't be surprised if they got those lawsuits cracking. Listen, when we talked about this, when the news initially broke here, what did we say? We said that Jay and Beyonce are going to be potentially blackballing him from the music industry. I think they're going to start saying, anybody who's working with Kanye after what he said about our children, you're out. You're never going to work with us again. And you're going to see that Kanye's going to have a harder and harder time finding collaborators for his album. He's already having an incredibly difficult time, right? After his comments about slavery, his comments about Jewish people, and just a bunch of people in general. A lot of people are refusing to clear his samples and stuff like that so that he could recreate them for his music and whatnot. And now after this, I think it's only going to get worse. So in yesterday's episode of The Morning Report, we showed that Mama Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom, she went on her Instagram account. She shared a corny joke. She said that no weapon formed against the family shall prosper. It's hard to stay and take the high road in the face of all of this ugly negativity. And then we saw that Beyonce's sister, Solange, beat Jay-Z down Knowles, changed her Twitter profile photo. So here's a closer look at what she put as her new Twitter profile photo. It's a gun, y'all. She's not playing about her niece and her nephew. Kanye, you are officially on notice. The entire family is aware of your ugly, disgusting, vile, and unforgivable comments about those children. And at this point, you are persona non grata. You already were, but it's about to get worse for you than it ever was. I truly, truly believe that. Okay, so we already know that the Elijah Scott allegedly cheating on Beyonce's story was shocking yesterday, right? Not cheating on Beyonce, what the hell? Cheating on Kail's story was shocking, right? Jules, enough said. Let me put this back up. Sorry to the Geminis, but enough said. We talked about Gemini. Listen, Gemini ladies, y'all are okay, but we talked about Gemini men on The Morning Report. Lord have mercy, y'all. But there was another story that was rather shocking that broke the other day. Do y'all watch Abbott Elementary? Do y'all know Quinta Brunson? And even if you do not watch Abbott Elementary, I imagine that you know her from her YouTube days. So she started off with his YouTube sketches like, oh, he got money. Then she went on to do BuzzFeed and everything like that before eventually landing her own show called Abbott Elementary. Well, she's getting a divorce after only 3.5 years of marriage to her husband, Kevin and Nick. We don't know yet why she's seeking out this divorce. I think she, like any other celebrity, has cited irreconcilable differences as a reason for getting this divorce. TMZ sources are also saying that the couple had a post-nup agreement. Thank God for that. Because, when they were getting married, I think she was still just doing the little thing. She had her YouTube. Then she was doing some BuzzFeed stuff. So making money, but not like crazy money like she's making now. Like on Abbott Elementary, the woman is being paid $400,000 an episode. So she was very, very smart to go and get a post-nup agreement for the change in financial status, right? And so hopefully that is going to come in handy in order to help this become a smooth and easy divorce for not only her, but for the two of them. They don't have any children together, by the way. And so, yeah, you guys keep an eye out on this. A lot of people are saying that they think she's going to go ahead and get with her co-star on Abbott Elementary, that guy from Everybody Hates Chris. But I don't know. Listen, you guys, I feel for her. She was recently talking about how she wanted to have kids and everything like that. So I imagine that it is rather devastating to go from that, right, to now filing for divorce and everything. And, just feeling like what's happening now? Like, what do I do? Having to start over with this goal in mind and everything. I feel like there's a lot of pressure for that. Brittany says, Abbott Elementary is one of my favorite shows right now. Sad they're breaking up, right? Isn't it a great show? I've only ever seen it on flights, but I really like it. I think it's so well written, and I do see it on TikTok as well. Every actor on that show is perfectly cast for their role. And I agree with you, April. There's no medicine for narcissists. And Kanye, he's just crashing out. Like at this point, I think he's doing it on purpose. I don't think that any of the excuses people trying to give him work for the situation. The man is doing what he wants to do. And unfortunately, what he wants to do is to emotionally harm people, and it's just not okay. Like you said, she didn't know that Quinta was married. Yeah, she has always kept it very, very, very low key. They were together for quite a while before getting married, but it's sad that the marriage didn't last or that it was only for a short amount of time. But listen, at the end of the day, this is a girl that stands on business. She said, okay, well, this is no longer working for me. I am not going to suffer for no reason. If it's not working, it's not working. There is no shame in pulling the plug. A lot of people stay in these relationships for a very, very long time just so that they can brag about the lengths of their relationships, right? So you see that, for example, Kyle Richards, from Beverly Hills, right? Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's always bragging about her 20-year marriage. Okay, you've been married for 20 years, but your man's been rumored to have been cheating on you for like 19 years. So, where's the quality in that? You know what I mean? Like, so I am proud of women like Quinta who can say, you know what, I'm not dealing with BS. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. And so am I, Shem Jem. I'm wondering what happened there, right? Very, very, very disappointing. Thank you, Growing Roses. Nice to have you here. And Solange got them hands. So Kanye, be careful, be careful, be careful. You guys, we have to come back and talk about the Javi on Kail podcast situation. Then we're going to talk about Blake Lively accusing Justin Baldoni of breaking the law with his lawsuit against her as well, okay? I'm going to take a quick break. Thank God I'm not a Gemini. No offense to the Geminis. I'm going to drink out of my Scorpio cup, and then I'll catch you on the flip side. If you're enjoying the morning report, don't hesitate to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and I'll catch you on the flip side with the rest of the day's stories.
The morning report is brought to you by Philo. Watch your favorite shows and movies from over 70 different channels, including MTV, TLC, WeTV, and more for only $28 a month. Get a free trial today by clicking the link in the description box of this video to get your free trial up and running. Are you looking for the perfect skincare products for women over 30? Look no further than Rothia. Rothia is a skincare brand born from love and made for parents. Their flagship product, the Resilience Cream, delivers clinically proven age prevention benefits such as average 14% wrinkle reduction after 4 weeks of use. Click the link below and receive 30% off your first purchase today.
Also, now that our palates have been cleansed, we're back with another Kail Lowry story. So this one, it's involving her podcast. So she and her ex-husband, Javi Marroquin, sat down to do an interview about Javi being deployed or restationed to another state. Javi is moving to Virginia, and obviously that is going to very heavily impact their co-parenting. They currently have a 50-50 co-parenting agreement for their son Lincoln, and now Javi wanted to take Lincoln with him to Virginia, but Kail wanted for Lincoln to stay in Delaware, and so they talk about navigating that in mediation. So, by the way, Lauren is going to be going with him to Virginia. Does Lauren have sisters? Does she have any present women in her life? Because to me, the fact that she not only stayed with this man after he repeatedly cheated on her, and then mocked her online with his baby mama, Kail, but had a second kid by him and is now going to move states for this man. Like, it's just so insane to me what she's willing to put up with for this man, right? But anyway, this is not about her. This is not about her. I'm just shocked. I really wish she had people who could get through to her. Now it's too late. She's got 2 kids by him, so it does make sense for her to move to Virginia, but she should have ran while she could have, because that was her problem in Delaware, was that she didn't know anybody, and she moved to Delaware from this man. She was from Maine. She had her family and everything in Maine. She left all that behind to follow this man, for this man to play her on social media and on TV. So now she's got to pick up again her life and follow him to Virginia. So they talk, first of all, when they do their interview, they started off by talking about how Kail making jokes about him and their hookups at Wawa on the podcast were causing problems in his relationship with Lauren. And I do not feel bad for him. He shouldn't have been hooking up with Kail at Wawa then, or maybe Lauren should have bounced when that man cheated on her for the millionth time then. Anyway, when it comes to their issues that they have in their co-parenting, their son Lincoln has been quite a bit distressed by it all, because Kail and Javi, they're not really on speaking terms. Typically, when they're doing anything involving their son, they have to email about it because they are not able to talk about it face to face and everything like that, because they just do not get along well. Their son Lincoln is aware of this. Even if they do not directly talk to him about the issues that they're facing, he senses the tension between them, and so they're trying to do better by him. And Kail, she kind of extends a little bit of an olive branch to Javi by telling him that her son Lux looks up to him because Javi is one of the kids' football coaches and stuff like that. And I kind of wonder how that felt for Javi, because remember, Kail was pregnant with Lux right after her divorce with Javi, or in the midst of her divorce with Javi and everything like that, right? And so Javi had been accusing her of cheating and everything. And we saw how devastated he was to learn that she was pregnant with a baby by another man, as she told him recently that, like just before, that she didn't want to have any more kids. And that was a big issue in their marriage and stuff. So, it's interesting that now she's saying, oh, this kid, he looks up to you. And Javi's like, all right. So Javi thinks it's crucial for Lincoln to be with him during this time in his life, right? So he's about 12 years old. And Javi says, listen, we're already really close. And, as a boy, he really needs his father to be there for these pivotal moments. And Kail agrees, but she still wants for him to stay with her in Delaware because she's got all his brothers there. But then at the same time, he's got a brother and a sister over at Javi's side as well. So it is one of those things where who really ultimately gets to win out here, right? And so they also made an agreement to not talk to Lincoln about the move and everything like that before they were both in agreement of when to do it. But Javi broke that agreement and he spoke to Lincoln about it before Kail was ready to talk to him about it. And she's pissed off. And listen, I understand why she's pissed off, because she's like, Lincoln is so young. Right. And so I wanted for us to go and get our ish together, figure out what we want to do custody wise, and then present him that information to take off some of the stress from him, but the way that Javi went about it, which was talking to him and then kind of asking him like what he wants to do, where he wants to live, which like, does he want to stay or go? That put a lot of stress and pressure on Lincoln, because of course, Lincoln has an opinion about where to be, where to go, who to stay with, who to leave, so to speak. But he also doesn't want to hurt his parents' feelings because he's a very empathetic child. And so I definitely do understand where she's coming from when she said that, like, it wasn't cool to go to their son like that without her being in agreement, and like now him stressing and going back and forth about it as if all of this is 100% his decision and he's going to be hurting one of his parents, right, by making a decision one way or the other. And so she opened up about the fact that Lincoln has been crying about this decision as well, which, again, I'm like, this is a little bit too much information to be putting out there, in the public. I feel like, listen, maybe do a little bit of an Instagram or a TikTok or a passing announcement about it. But like this is a lot of detail to put out about, like, how your son is processing what is going to be an unforgettable, groundbreaking, future shaping moment in his life. But I digress, y'all. And they actually did go before a judge to argue about where Lincoln should stay or go or whatever. And the judge kind of scolded them about it. And Javi accuses this judge of being low-key anti-military for siding against him, which I thought was rather interesting, because at the end of the day, it's Javi who is leaving, right? And Lincoln has a routine. He's got his friends in Delaware. He's got his activities in Delaware. Like, to me, it makes sense that a judge would primarily prefer to have as little disruption as possible, right? And then his mother, she's in a very, very tangled web. This is not someone who's just refusing to go to Virginia, even though she doesn't have to, right? But this is not the case. She's got multiple baby daddies there with her in Delaware. So it is 1000% out of the question that she even moves. But then Javi seems to want her to move. He's like, listen, I have outgrown Delaware, haven't you? And then Kail goes, well, we're all here because of you. Like, you got stationed here. We all came here. We can't just pick up and move again. I've got Joe. I've got Chris. I've got Elijah. Like, this can't just happen this way again, So it's hard, they really opened up a lot about it. And it was really, really, really difficult to hear about how much they had been struggling with this situation in general. And so for now, what's going to happen is that Lux is going to be staying with Kail during the school year. However, during the summer and the majority of the holidays, if not all the holidays, he is going to be going to Virginia to spend time with his father, Javi, and his siblings over there. So he's got Eli and he's got Macy over there as well. And so that's not going to be just the way it is finally. They're just going to be testing that out, seeing how he likes it. And if he wants to go to Virginia and try that out, then they will try that out next year. So I'm wondering what you guys feel about that. Are you any of you guys in like military families or anything like that? Like, have you had to deal with this? Have you been in a situation? So, I do actually have a really big question for you guys. So if you currently are with someone in a similar position to Javi, right? Someone who's in the military, but you have a child by someone else, and then your spouse get stationed in a different state or in a far off different city, what would you do in this sort of a situation? And especially if your child were a boy as well, because, they do both agree that right now for his development, it is very important for him to be with his father. However, again, for Kail, it's really important to maintain the relationship that he has with his siblings on her side, and then again, it's kind of like, okay, but he's got siblings on Javi's side too, right? Very, very, very complicated situation. I do not envy them one bit. Lauren says, her family dynamics are insane. They chaos and dramatics, not to mention the actual ABUSE. All of these children are constantly shipped between unstable homes and separated, right? It's sad, separated from each other. It's very, very sad. And then when she was listing all of like the web that she has in Delaware, right? I was like, oh my God, this is so much. This is so much. This is so much, So she was actually, she was saying that she would have liked to leave Delaware. Like she didn't want to like settle down in Delaware as much as she likes it. But she said that her career and her life could flourish in LA, in Texas, in Atlanta, but she has to stay in Delaware because of the baby daddy situation. Having kids by everybody you meet and sneeze at complicates things, right? Julissa says, Javier has some audacity. They all picked up and moved to Delaware because of him. Joe and his wife fully left their hometown to be near Isaac. Exactly, right? And for him, it was all fun and games when he was trying to play dad to Isaac, right? Almost trying to alienate Joe from Isaac. It was all fun and games to him. And now he wants for the kids to follow him, to Virginia, everyone to pick up their life again. Sorry, but no. And again, this is in line with the karma stuff we were talking about earlier, right? With like Kail being a serial cheater, now being cheated on by this guy. I think this is kind of like a little bit of karma for Javi too, because when he was moving to Delaware, he had no empathy, no regard, nothing for Joe and how he felt about being separated from his child. In fact, Javi and Kail made that move before a judge even like gave them an order saying that they could. So sorry, but what goes around comes around. Be careful about the way that you treat other people. You might find yourself in that similar situation, right? Scarlett says, Javi's blessed to have been there for so long, but I do think Lincoln should be with Javi. And you know what? Speaking of that, he is really lucky because I have a friend and she has been in a relationship with someone in the military. So, guys, I'm Canadian. So this is Canada. And so they started off living in Ottawa, then they got shipped to Montreal, then Toronto, and now they're going back to Ottawa. And this is all within like 5 years. So they've been moving around quite a bit. Whereas Javi has been seemingly, in the same place for like over a decade now. So they did kind of explain it away by saying that he took as many different jobs as he could in that like one area. And they do understand that like, he has kids, so they were more favorable to him because of it. But then in my friend and her partner's case, they don't have children right now. So maybe that's a reason it's different other than, obviously being different countries, different militaries. Jen says, I choose to move to another state. My ex-husband and I let the kids move with me. One loved it, the other didn't. How did that work out with the one that didn't? Like, did you ship the other one back to their father? It sounds so difficult. Like it's so hard to make these sorts of things work. B Chocolate says, Kail created this stupid, chaotic situation for her kids. It's sad and gross. Yeah. But at the same time, like she doesn't have to move just because Javi, got into the military and has to move, sorry, but screw Javi, Javi is so selfish anyway, like Javi. Anyway, listen, it is about Lincoln at the end of the day. And, like you guys and like Kail and like Javi, I do agree that, it probably was in his best interest to be with Javi. But, and that's the thing that I find weird is that Kail says it's in his best interest. She says that in the podcast episode, yet she doesn't want for him to be there. So it's like, is it about him or is it about you then? I don't know. Steph says Kail's projecting. She's scared if Lincoln moves now, it'll be how it is with her and her siblings. And you know what? Speaking of, don't forget, you guys, she has cried on the podcast about how Lincoln is closer to Javi than he is to her, right? Because of all the sports and stuff that they do together. So I kind of do feel like this is her trying to see if having him more is going to build that bond and maybe kind of even out the playing field, so to speak, between his preference for both parents. That's the vibe I'm getting here as well. So yeah, Jasmine, he got relocated. He's now having to go, and he's a recruiter in the military, by the way, you guys. So he's having to go ahead and do that in Virginia. And thank you, Esther. Nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Star says, fun fact, I'm from West Philadelphia. In West Philadelphia, born and raised. Quinta was my ballet teacher. Wow, that is crazy. 6 degrees of separation for real. So cool. You know, this reminds me, she's not here today, but Ashley, she was in the Belieber community. So if you guys weren't here for earlier this week's morning reports, we were talking about Hailey Bieber wanting to sue people over that 7-part documentary. And then one of the people she used to talk to get tips on where Justin Bieber would be, the hotels, she had photos, videos, and stuff. Like she sent them to, like, you know, it's so crazy how connected you guys are to these people. So Bonjour says, I'm trying to leave my state, but my bitter ex won't let me. It's hard. It's so difficult. Children complicate everything. You know, children are wonderful and beautiful and lovely, but they complicate everything. This is why I'm holding out as long as I can. I don't want to, you know, I have to find the right place to be. If I'm going to have kids, I have to be in a place where I'm not going to be like, you know, mad about like, you know, where I'm stuck. You know what I mean? It's hard. It makes everything so difficult in regards to relocation and whatnot. So again, guys, be careful, y'all. Be careful. Because some of these guys will purposely try to make your life miserable too. Deja says, this is actually going to make her love and obsess over him now. You know, she has a problematic, twisted relationship kink. The more the dog her, the more she loves them. Oh, yeah, because you know what? Maybe you're right, Deja. I think you're onto something when it comes to Elijah. Because remember, Chris was repeatedly, quote unquote, cheating on Kail. Mind you, I don't think he was cheating because she was just a part of a harem. She knew she was not the main one. She knew there were several other women. And she loved that man's dirty draws, you guys, right? Like she loved his dirty draws. So maybe now this is going to make her more attracted to Elijah too, you know, because she might be one of those girls. There are still those women who think that a man has to, you know, do them dirty to be like masculine, to be attractive and whatnot, right? So Bonjour says, my kids are 9 and 3 and don't really see her interact with her father. Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. That happened to my friend's in-law, where the father was not at all involved. Right. And they lived in a different city here. They were living down in Toulouse and she wanted to move up to Paris with her new boyfriend. And now all of a sudden, just to attempt to block the move, he started petitioning in the courts and everything, even though he was never in that child's life. You listen, these men, they like to call women all sorts of things, bitter baby mama this, bitter baby mama that, but they will make your life hell. They really, really will. So I'm sorry that's happening to you, Sweet Bonjour, and anybody else that's in that situation. It cannot be easy. It sounds really, truly, truly, truly difficult, you know. By the way, you guys, I did say that I've got a final It Ends With Us update for the week. So last time we talked, Ryan Reynolds called Justin Baldoni a creep, a fake feminist again, and he demanded to be removed from the lawsuit that Justin Baldoni filed against him and his wife, Blake Lively, right? Now it's Blake Lively's turn. She just filed her own request to be dropped from the lawsuit. So just as a recap, the New York Times did similarly back in the day, a couple weeks ago. And the judge gave them a partial ruling, which was that, okay, we're not removing you from the lawsuit, but for now we're going to pause. So no discovery on you just yet. So I am worried for Justin Baldoni that he might see that for Blake and Ryan Reynolds as well, you know, potentially. And maybe the judge is just going to go say, okay, we're dropping this suit and we're keeping Blake's suit, and then go from there in order to kind of just organize everything. So take a look at her filing. Okay, you guys. So this was an introduction. And by the way, everything that both sides have been filing in the courts have 100,000% been for public consumption. They are so dramatic. Take a look at the way that they speak, okay, or that they write. This is Blake's filing. The Wayfarer Party's vengeful and rambling lawsuit against Blake Lively is a profound abuse of the legal process that has no place in federal court. The law prohibits weaponizing defamation lawsuits like this one to retaliate against individuals who have filed legal claims or have publicly spoken out about sexual harassment and retaliation. The right to seek legal redress and the right of the press to report on it are sacred principles that are protected by multiple privileges, including the litigation and fair reports privileges, which are absolute. Moreover, by choosing to bring their claims under California law, the Wayfarer parties have voluntarily subjected their entire lawsuit to the sexual harassment privilege in the recently enacted California Civil Code, which bars retaliatory lawsuits based on public disclosures of sexual harassment and related allegations, including disclosures to the press. Given all of these protections, the Wayfarer Party's chief complains that Ms. Lively and others supposedly conspired with the New York Times is barred as a matter of law. She was legally entitled to file her complaint and disclose it to the public. So now they're saying this man's a full-blown criminal because he is accusing her of colluding with the New York Times. And so, it kind of begs the question, how ugly is this going to get? Because obviously right now they're fighting in civil court, but is she threatening to take this to criminal court? I doubt it, but they're kind of planting those seeds right there, in this filing to get her off of the lawsuit. So there's another thing that I found that was quite dramatic here. So at the very end of that introduction paragraph, they say, on top of that, Section 47.1 contains a mandatory fee shifting provision that will require the Wayfarer parties to pay not only Ms. Lively's attorney's fees, but also the treble damages and punitive damages if and when their defamation lawsuit is dismissed. In other words, in an epic self-own, it's just so dramatic, right? The Wayfarer parties have created more liability for themselves by their malicious efforts to sue Ms. Lively, quote, into oblivion. Steve Sarowitz may indeed make good on his threat to spend $100 million litigating against Ms. Lively, but perhaps not in the way he planned. So they seem very, very, very confident that they can get this case dismissed against Blake. And they feel very, very confident that, in fact, Justin Baldoni and his team are going to have to pay Blake's astronomical legal fees on top of all of this. So as it stands, you guys, it's kind of, I want to know what you guys have to say about this before I really get into my opinions. But just based off of the New York Times getting a partial ruling in their favor as well, like, I'm kind of wondering, I think that the judge, and he did hint at this like a couple months ago back in January, that he wanted to kind of like consolidate all of these lawsuits together. And do you think that this is the way he's going to lean? Okay, she filed first, let's dismiss Justin Baldoni's. And again, if he does that, that does mean that he could potentially owe her legal fees. Very, very, very interesting. And I do think that, again, they're planting these very, 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 very strong seeds against him when they're saying that what he's doing is criminal, in that they are saying that he is targeting somebody who has allegedly been a victim of sexual harassment. Listen, one thing that I'm really, really, really hoping and waiting for is the proof, right? Because on Justin Baldoni's side, he released video, he's released like all sorts of proof to back up his claims and to defend himself. Whereas on Blake's side, we saw a list of things that she needed to return back to work, but we never saw HR complaints. We never saw like people that she was going to use as witnesses or anything like that. Everything is very hush hush and very anonymous. There still is time for her to come out with more of this information, but for now, like, I'm still kind of, leaning more towards Justin Baldoni's end of things. But at the end of the day, I only want to see the truth prevail. And so as more information comes out, that can change my opinion. But as of right now, I do think that there is a high risk that she can win this and get the countersuit thrown out and then proceed only with her lawsuit being the principal and the only lawsuit that they look at, which would be a huge loss for Justin Baldoni, especially financially speaking, right? And I actually think that Ryan Reynolds is going to succeed at getting himself dropped from that lawsuit as well. B Chocolate says, I don't know anyone on earth who's seen that movie. Listen, I've been trying to see it for a while, but they blocked me on it here on Netflix France. I tried to use a VPN. They said, nope, absolutely not. Soon Bonjour hopes Justin comes out on top. Listen, yeah, I agree. If it's him who's telling the truth, if it's Blake who's telling the truth, whoever, I hope that, whoever's telling the truth comes out on top. Although for now, it really does look like he's the more credible one. April says, not as sassy as Baldoni lawyers, but it's kind of good, right? They have been giving us a run for our money with these like dramatic court filings. I had no idea that the law was this kind of like flashy and whatnot. It's been very interesting to read all of these filings coming out on all sides. You guys, can you believe it? That's it for today's morning report. Thank you so much for joining me for another morning report. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't hesitate to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. In fact, actually, before I wrap this up, I did see a comment. Someone was asking about my collaboration with LB, recapping Teen Mom Next Chapter. Listen, that was my fault, you guys. I had the worst cramps on Sunday. I was in bed. I was down bad. So we weren't able to do it. Then we were supposed to do it Tuesday, but she was celebrating her son's birthday. And so now we're trying to figure out a new time to do this. So we will be collaborating eventually, but it's really, really hard to collaborate, especially with like the time difference between the two of us. But it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Once again, thank you to those of you who've been trying to get us together. It has been a long time coming, I believe, but it's coming. Do not worry. Okay, you guys. Again, thank you so much for joining me for another morning report. If you enjoyed the episode, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I'll see you Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of the Morning Report. Have a great weekend, you guys. Check your man's phone, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Take care.